So I hope you can't hear it, but there's like someone next door or downstairs that's like moving out or something, and it's just like, it feels like the walls themselves are talking and moving. But hopefully you don't hear that, because that's very, very obnoxious. So I feel really, really good because I haven't done a review on a spiritual book or an extraterrestrial book like this, I feel like, in a few months, and I really needed it to balance my like mind. I kind of did the mistake of reading this and reading a romance book at the same time, and then I don't know if I'm going to finish the romance book before the end of the year, but I think I can. I don't know if I'll have the video uploaded by then though, but this video is going to be so long probably because there's so much information. I've been wanting to read this book for about like a year now. It just hasn't been the time yet, and I recently just bought it, so I feel like I need to get closer. And I recently just bought it, and I read it in like 2 days, 2 or 3 days, and it was very challenging because, you know, when you're reading very dense material like this, the things that like change your DNA and your mind a lot, it's just like very hard to digest at a much quicker rate than a normal like fiction book, like a romance book or something like that. You know, it's like, because you're not like learning really, but you're like with like a romance book, but you are in a way, but like not really. But like this one, you're like actually like fully I don't know, like aware and conscious of what you're reading, I feel like. So just like always, I wrote down the most important things, either like directly from the book, or I had my own thoughts. And then I also will like completely read exact words from the book as it is written. So I'll read dialogue like that, or because this is hypnosis, like Dolores Cannon's method. So this is A Hypnotist Journey to Atlantis by Sarah Breskman Cosme. And ooh, so just so you know, the book is huge, like the dimensions of it. It's beautiful, and it's huge. That's the spine, that's the back. It's huge, but it's not very thick. It's like 170 pages exactly. It's not very thick, but there's a lot in a page. Do you know what I mean? Because of the dimensions of the book. So I'm just going to start now. Oh, well, but in case I forget to mention it, she also has 2 new books that came out. I'm very behind on this, but she has 2 new books that came out, and I need to read them ASAP because this one was very, very good. Okay, so there is a crystal that is naturally made on Earth. It is a dull red gemstone that is found within a silvery type of substance. This material will hit the gem and refract off, and as it does, it shoots off larger stone slabs and creates a vortex. When you go inside this vortex, you do not come out the same. You are shown the purpose of the universe. There is a huge connectivity and a continuum, a figure 8 that allows for things to consistently happen, but in different ways. There is a very deep, bright light that shines throughout you. There is a part of the brain, the cerebellum, I believe, that gets repaired in this vortex. It eliminates all insecurity, which is the root of all wars and problems in our reality. I'm trying to like position this better so you can like have something nice to see. So how did this game of life get started? So there was a group in the very beginning. It was not one. There were a few of them, and they felt empty inside. They felt nothing, and they wanted to feel something, and they began something that involved creating in their own image. They are a group that is eternal, a group that does not have gender. They are a governing group, and this is a grand, never-ending experiment. So I love this interaction. So it says, we don't take anything from animals. We never harm anything, even the leaves and the soil samples and mushrooms. We ask if it's okay to take them with us. We ask the species of plants, and we ask the earth if it's okay, telepathically. Mostly they say yes, but sometimes they don't agree. So then we wouldn't take them. Everything has its own set of consciousness. This is from a past life in, I believe it was Atlantis or Lemuria, one of them. Okay, so this is a dialogue. I'm just gonna read the whole thing. It used to feel like they're like a beautiful summer's day out on a green field of grass with a blue sky above and a very fresh and happy place. What happened? Everything almost had to be shut down. The experiment was almost scrapped. Why? It had gone in the wrong direction. There were things that snuck in, almost like it attached to one of our ships or landed here on an asteroid, but it interfered with the project and the results. There was disease that was brought unintentionally through this. It had snuck here? Yes, it had hightailed on the back of something coming here. It had a consciousness that affected the physicality of the people that came here. The first beings settling Antarctica fell into a depression because of it. They didn't understand what it was and what was going on with their bodies when they would fall ill. And the misery that it brings to them is what unfurls this whole web of negativity that begins to spread. And it affects their work. It affects the things that they are growing. Why did it almost get shut down? And then you can read that for yourself. What happened to Antarctica itself? Why is it covered by ice? In the shifting of poles, the shifting of climate, and the freezing of lands, Antarctica was covered by ice miles deep. What would you find if you could dig miles deep under the ice in Antarctica now? Well, you would find evidence of the original colonies who seeded this planet. You would find many keys that would link our heritage to somewhere beyond this planet. What type of keys would you find? You would find ancient technology, such as the ability to form stones into shapes very quickly, the ability to lift and magnetize things without needing a crane, and cooking technology to cook and keep food for long periods of time. However, you would also find microscopic disease, so Antarctica is better left alone. Has anyone ever found any of this evidence? There have been many explorations that have gone and studied and found many unexplainable things that they are not allowed to let people know. What do they find? They have found different types of metals in ice core drills miles deep into the earth. The findings would lead to the understanding that there were in fact many advanced ancient civilizations before ours. Did our culture know where the chasms were? So chasms, I'm going to drop this because I'm very tired already of holding it. Chasms are, wow, they're getting very loud. Chasms are like portals, basically, like naturally occurring portals. Did your culture know where the chasms were? Yes, the biggest one of these chasms was located on the outskirts of our island, on what is called Easter Island now. The Maury Stoneheads were, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. The Maury Stoneheads were originally placed in a circle and made into a chasm. When the wave occurred, many of them were dislodged and sent all over the island and buried into the land. Were there any other times when the chasm would open? It could be done manually if the right amount of crystals were placed in the right positions with the right type of equipment. It was like a failsafe that was programmed in when the chasm was created by the earliest visitors to this planet. If the crystals were not available, or if the technology wasn't available, there were at least 2 days a year that you could access the chasm and transport yourself. Where exactly could you go within the chasm? The chasms were made to transport you along the ley lines or energy centers to other locations on the earth. However, when you would travel, you would never know where you would end up. Do you get a sense of what is to come? No, well, maybe somewhere in the back of my mind I have seen it. Tell me more about that. Well, my grandmother used to show me how to communicate with the dead. I saw it there. How did you see it? Could you tell me more? We would stare at each other's faces using a certain crystal until we would start to see visions and communicate with another realm. Once we looked into the future and all we saw was water. It scared us and we never brought it up again. We never looked into the future after that, but I always had a sense that something was coming. I think I always had a nagging feeling that something was going to go wrong. My grandmother always told me to push that away. When you scan the records of your people, what do you find the most interesting or important about those records? Well, they tell the story of our origins and of our rulers and how they overcame problems such as floods and droughts and swarms, the usual issues that people face. The most important thing was the divine bloodline that continues in what they called the gift of the stars, which was our right to rule because our ancestors foresaw this need for our existence. This is the Rh negative blood. Could you tell me what the purpose of this bloodline is? This is a very specific bloodline that is the result of the union and the success of that one child being born. It is a symbol of that union and the success of that. The O bloodline goes back to this as well. The O bloodline comes from the mother, and the Rh factor came from the father. The father was the commander, and the first woman that he mated with was the mother. The other bloodlines you see now are from different people from different planets that have come here to colonize. And I'm mad now that I put my book away because now I need to read directly from page 58. So hold on. I'm so sorry that the knocking is loud. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but if you can, I'm so sorry. So page 58. Okay. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. Okay, so now they're talking about the destruction of Atlantis. It takes everything. Everything is gone. What happens to you? We run and try to escape it. They're screaming, people trying to push each other up into trees or to hang on to something, but we're just no match for this wave. What happens next? I'm leaving the life behind now. Tell me more about this. What do you notice? I'm going back to where I came from. I love it here. Could you tell me about it? Where is here? It's where everyone goes after they leave their physical life. A part of me is always here. I realize now that I'm always loved, always okay. There is no death. I'm always being helped. Who is helping you? It looks like me, but just a smarter version of myself. Okay. Subconscious, why did you show Olivia that life on that island? We wanted to show her that that island was never really lost. While the actual island may be in pieces under the ocean, all her family is back again. She is back again. We want her to understand that she is always okay. Where was this island? It was an ancient place. Some call it Lemuria. Why does Olivia have a fear of the water? It's from the lifetime where she drowned. It is important for her to understand that before that life, she wanted to experience drowning. Simply for her soul's expansion and experience. Could you tell me why? Basically, to fully understand how it feels to drown. As she overcomes this fear, it will be very powerful for everyone that knows her. They will see that they too can overcome their own fears as well. Does she understand this now? Yes. Now that she understands this, does she need to have a strong fear of water? She can release this now. We are releasing it. It has now served its purpose. What was its purpose? The fear was a very strong motivator for her to look within herself. Did she find out everything she needed to know about this fear? Yes, there is a clarity now, a realization that her dreams were actual memories from this time. She is also not alone. There are more people that have reincarnated from this time period sprinkled all throughout the earth. In order to learn and to remember what we once had within that beautiful and loving Lemurian civilization, because the time is right for many to learn to have this again. Okay. Could you tell me more about this energy that Atlantis had? Yes, they had harnessed a specific type of energy that they had obtained from the people who came before them, from their home planet. Do you get a sense of what that home planet is, or where? From beyond our earthly galaxy and the stars, behind the Big Dipper. The Atlanteans wanted me to tell them how to use the red crystals, and no matter what form of torture they used on me, I would not tell them. They could never get this technology. The power was too great, and in the wrong hands it would destroy too much. I understood why the ancestors didn't want them to have it. Is there anything else about the red crystals that seem important? The importance of these crystals was the ability to communicate back with our ancient ancestors and our ancient home. They could not do it even though they had remained technically advanced from their time of arrival and had even grown technologically. We were able to use these crystals even though we had lost a lot of technology. We had the most important thing that we were supposed to come with, which was compassion, and they were void of compassion. So basically, I don't know if you're understanding, but basically there was a war between the Atlanteans and the Lemurians. The Lemurians were advanced spiritually, but the Atlanteans were advanced technologically. I don't know if I'm going to mention it later if it comes up or not in my notes, but the Atlanteans wanted to know how to use these red crystals that eventually destroyed Atlantis and Lemuria, that you find out later in the book. But because there was I don't want to say, you have to read the book. I can't say it. There was something that something that happened that the Atlanteans needed the red crystals. They needed to know how to use it, but the Lemurians were like, no ma'am. So also we learned that Atlantis, the creator of Atlantis, was an extraterrestrial, and he basically used, I don't know if it was his extraterrestrial technology or other lost extraterrestrial technology to create human beings, I guess, to help create a new city that was in his own image from his home planet. So the Atlantis that we know of is what his home planet apparently looked like, and he wanted to mimic that and mirror that because he wasn't able to go back to his home planet. It was kind of like a one-way ticket, like a one-way mission to Earth. And then, yeah, you just have to read the book from there. Okay. Could you tell me about the people who were mixed with animal DNA? There were many mutated people. I see now a race of people who were like cat people. There were many reasons for this, but one of the reasons was because there was some feline DNA that was extracted in order to make people more spry and able to maneuver the way a cat does. I see them finding something in the brain that allows them to complete a study that uses a liquid that doesn't freeze, but freezes things it touches. There are also mutated frog people that seem to have a conductivity to them because of their skin changes, and they're able to use this energy and direct it, and this begins some of the work that will lead to the destruction of Atlantis. Tell me more about that. This will begin the building of a new energy system that will take over, and many generations later will be the same energy system that will be manipulated and turned against them. It will create an ancient nuclear reaction and expose the entire civilization. I see you, though. Your childhood was very scientific. So no, she was referring to the author. Atlantis starts off very advanced from all the technology that they came with. Then it dips and they lose things over the generations until it hits a point again closer to the end of its reign when the technology just goes through the roof. They're able to regain and reconfigure a lot of their old technology again. It comes back around. They also use the technology to do different things than they had once done. So it creates a whole new set of reactions within society. There is energy that is tapped into, but the sourcing looks different. It's like it's already in the walls, already there, and when you need it to turn on, you can... they're talking about lights, like lights in a building. And when you need it to turn on, you can just lift your hand up in a certain way and the light will come on. And when you wave it in a different way, the light will dim down. However, it's not a single source, like a light bulb. The whole room lights up. The whole room is wired to it. So my side note to that is, I have to say that it reminds me of the retellings of being taken on board a ship from Dolores Cannon's books. All their rooms don't have a light source in the spaceships. The light just like comes out of the walls themselves, and no one has been able to explain, at least that I know of, how this is done. It's just like the walls are alive or something with just like electricity. I don't know if the luminescence of it, I don't know if it's like bioluminescence, but I don't know if the luminescence itself is sentient or conscious, and I have a feeling that it might be. Also, I wanted to summarize that, long story short, but the mutated animal and human hybrids were basically taken to this island off of Atlantis and to basically have them killed off. But a lot of people did not know that that's what was happening to them, that they were getting killed off, that they were just getting taken to this island so they can be separated. They would have them shipped there and use like a ray-like light that would basically disintegrate them. It would absorb all the moisture in their body and leave them as dust, and that would end up killing all the grass in the island from the super high levels of carbon that their bodies had emitted after dying. But years later on, the leader of Atlantis had a child, and his child had a genetic mutation that made them look like a cat. He noticed his child had special abilities and stopped sending the hybrid children to be killed off, since the Atlanteans wanted to access and harness energy from crystals. And upon realizing that the mutated children had access to these crystals and abilities like levitation and things like that, they stopped killing them off and started finding out what children had what abilities. So now they truly started experimenting on them, this time for their abilities. And that literally reminds me of X-Men. So I have also had many clients recount losing their mutated children. Most of the time they are reunited with those same children in this lifetime. But I understand that many people are here to clear this trauma. I have also had a few clients of subconscious explain that the residual effect of these mutated people is still flowing lightly within our genes. The effects are very rare, however. Some people are still born with gills, tails, and webbed feet, a result of these ancient experiments and not from an evolutionary mistake. What is also interesting to me is the power of hearing or reading these stories. In the QHHT class in Miami, many students in the class had similar experiences in their regressions. Even some had strange and spontaneous healings from uncovering this lifetime. One student reported that she had always had a strange affinity for cats and felt different her whole life. She had also developed a strange cough that amazingly disappeared upon hearing this story. What was the purpose for these people to have been mutated and then discriminated against? Well, the purpose was to show how people are treated differently by society, and that a society will turn on themselves when they exclude those who are different rather than be inclusive of differences. We are seeing that in our society now, and that is why this book needs to be written. Why? Because we are seeing the same inequalities happening to people of different colors as we did when we had people of different colors there. So is this a cycle that goes on and on? Yes. Tell me more about that. So it is a seed of injustice that was planted when we first saw differences in each other. When we would see others that looked similar to us, we would not fear them, but when we saw others that looked different, we would. So where does that come from? Well, it goes back to the origins of fear that came to this planet. We are now at a point evolutionarily where we are removing the outer layers of the fear that have held us back, while the full fear can never be removed because it has its place here and it's made its home here, and it has just as much of a right to be here as the rest of us. We no longer need to use fear as an excuse to separate ourselves from our true identity. For thousands of years, we have projected this fear on anything that does not look as we would want it to look, and we have sent people away hoping this would then keep us pure, but it does not. If it is the integration that is key to everything, and the need for equality amongst us all. That is the only way that we will progress past our past and transition into the next level of consciousness. That is what holds us back, and it has cyclically held us back. It is time for this fear to be shed, and that will begin now. Are we headed in the right direction? Yes, it is millennia in the making. Discrimination has played its role and sowed its seeds, and now it's time for the weeds to be ripped up. And it is time to grow something useful. What do you mean when you say move into the next level of consciousness? Well, the next level of consciousness will be one of equality, where we no longer look to judge or to fear others based on our differences, but we will begin to veer into each other's minds and feel who a person is rather than see what a person is. We will begin to use our intuition about people more. We will begin to subtly communicate with each other using this internal voice rather than our eyes and our judgment. So the author did a session for a girl that was a mermaid during the times of Atlantis, and the girl was so drawn to come to the Florida Keys where the author lives. Clients kept coming to the Florida Keys to regain a piece of themselves lost in Atlantis. And that is why the author lives in the Florida Keys, because that is where her Atlantis self had died, very close to the part where she lives now. Kind of like to close a chapter, to like close the loop of a karma. The red crystals responsible for the island end the red crystals responsible for the island's end must still be in the water somewhere, and this is one of the closest points to feel them. And that is probably why a lot of clients are drawn to that land, drawn to that area. So now I'm reading page 113. Anything else you notice that seems interesting or important? I see that my father in this life was one of those little kids who saw me in that lifetime. I see the effect that it had on him then, and the effect that my being his daughter has on him now. I see that I'm back here again to continue to open that channel. Why did Erica experience failed attempts with IVF? They were never supposed to work. They were meant to trigger a response and memory of the lifetime as the captured mermaid in order to rebalance her karma. Karma is not a punishment, but a choice to do things differently. Erica is not meant to have children in this lifetime, and she knows this, and during her treatments, she felt the same violation and abuse of her own will. The treatments were meant as a catalyst for her to start her inward journey and the catalyst for her to seek help. Now that she has received this information, all the trauma will leave. She is noticing a big difference already. What is she feeling? She feels as if she has been set free. This is one of the reasons why she has to come all the way from upstate New York to the Keys. Why does she need to come to the Keys? Because what happened in Atlantis is still there. The energy of it is still there, and it faces out in this direction of the Florida Keys. And it is like a tide that brings that charged water here, like a basic conductive agent. The Florida Keys are one of the closest points to this energy. Is there anything you want Erica to do while she is here? We brought her here to be close to this water so that it would be a charging to the soul, reactivating those memories to make sense of what happened. Does she need to go into the ocean to have this charge? She has to go to the ocean to feel that expanse, but it would be extremely beneficial for her to submerge herself in the water. It would be a natural activator. Could you tell me about the legends of mermaids in Atlantis? Well, they are not legends. They happened as a result of seeding the planet. There was a sprinkling of them put in the sea to see if they would do well. And did they? They didn't do as well as those on land, but they were better at hiding away. They were better at avoiding the colonizer and were a bit more rebellious. So they were able to hide away from the colonizers. Does that mean they didn't advance like humans? Well, they evolved in their own way based on their needs and their environment in the ocean. I heard people often talk about mermaids during the time of Atlantis. Was that true? Was it common to see mermaids? Not when I lived there, but earlier on, the people who settled Atlantis first had a lot of contact with them. They cooperated with humans at the time to help feed one another, but only after the first colonizers were gone and before the new colonizers began. It was just them with a very simple-minded group of early humans. It was more of an animalistic group of cooperation and trade. What happened to the mermaids? Well, there is just a very small population of them left in underground cave systems right now in order to avoid the excess of boats and pollution around them. They travel to many places because they migrate seasonally. They're also more fish-like than human, but they do have humanoid characteristics. They have eyes and nose and stuff like that. They just do not have cities. They live in caves. And they sometimes surface if they're curious, and they communicate using echolocation and also have their own language. Their language sounds like a porpoise. And they have families, so they're very, very similar to humans in that way, and they work together and live together in pods. So yeah, you can read more about that in the book yourself. So one client in this life has an astigmatism. So that means kind of that he's really, really blind, because I have an astigmatism as well, just like him. So when the author regressed this client, it was revealed in a past life in Atlantis that he saw human-animal hybrids and found them to be horrifying, like just a sight to see, like a sight that he did not want to see. He was screaming that he did not want to see such things, and later on in the session, he said he understood why he had blurred his eyes in this current lifetime was because he did not want to see the crimes against humanity then, so he made sure in this life that he wouldn't see them clearly this time. And even though I've done my own hypnosis session before, I wonder, I couldn't heal my eyes then because I couldn't fully go down in my subconscious. But I wonder if that's one of the reasons why I chose to be like that in this lifetime, because it would be amazing to have a miracle healing like that. Like she healed the tumor from her friend after her friend became aware of the information as to why the tumor was there in the first place, and it was because it was from a past lifetime. So I wonder if I'm just trying to spontaneously and miraculously heal my eyesight as well, because I would rather not be blind or be getting even more blind than I already am. You said the people who had watches. Could you tell me more about that? Yes, they were the first humans to use the invention of time, the same time that we use now. Yes, they invented the watch and were the first humans to use what we know as time now because they wanted to make sure they were using it all productively. They were very productive. How did they have all of this knowledge? Well, we had knowledge and technology that was given to us from the extraterrestrials that seeded us. How was it given to us? I mean, how was it given to you? The very early Atlanteans were given this information in many different ways, and most of the technology was stored and found under the chambers of the Sphinx. What was under the Sphinx? Technology and information. It was put there so that there could be access. The information and technology grew and grew amongst our society. It grew, and it was too much. Why was it too much? We just advanced in that area without advancing within ourselves. There was no balance. Everything was for work here. Nothing here is for pure joy or fun. So very similar to our reality now. A lot of us are repeating the same thing from that time. And right now it's our choice to choose differently and do things differently, or else we're going to end up in the same place. People need to balance their knowledge of technology and their knowledge of spirituality and just like health and wellness and stuff, or we're going to head the same path that these Atlanteans did. Okay, so I know this is very abrupt, but what was Hitler tapping into? He was actually looking for these red crystals. Why was he looking for the red crystals? He dreamt of it one day. He would tap into it in his dreams. He started off wanting to free and help his people, to pull them away from a war that had hurt so many and changed the minds of so many because of the exposure to the chemicals in the pits. I see him lying on his stomach trying to worm away from this. He wanted to help them, and he began to see these images and this information, and then his intentions changed. Why did his intentions change? What happened to cause him to become such a terrible person? The power became too much. He began searching for this red crystal, and it drove him insane. What does the symbol of the swastika really mean? Does it have a meaning? So this is the ancient symbol that represented the four elements of the earth, combining in a formation representing the chasms swirled all together. The swastika represented the things we needed: the earth, the wind, the water, and the light. All four combined together to create the circuit, to build an underground tube of what looks like molten lava to connect these energies, these portals on earth from the seedling days. So why did Hitler want a white brotherhood? Well, in his hysteria, he does not distinguish between the two civilizations or cultures and sees Lemuria and Atlantis as one. He was picking up on the silvery blonde hair of Atlantis and how these people felt superior. That was how he got it all wrong. Okay, so I see the statue of the very first leader of Atlantis, the founder. It is located in the center of the capital. It looks like a man holding a trident. It is similar to what others have imagined Poseidon to look like. I also see the trolleys. They look like a bullet train almost, rounded on the top, and it comes in very steep in the front, like a very sharp line to reduce the friction of the wind. There is a statue in the capital of the founder of Atlantis holding a trident. Could you tell me more about that? What was the trident used for? So the trident was something he found when he first arrived at the place called Atlantis. It had been abandoned by the people who owned it before him. He found it after traveling through the chasm to get there. So it had energy that could be propelled from it. He used it on people because it could immobilize them, but it was never meant to be used on people. It was supposed to be used as a building device. It could suspend, lift, and put things into place. And I have a feeling this is just my theory, I have a feeling this is how the pyramids might have been built. Remember in Dolores Cannon's regressions, there was like a staff-like tool that was anti-gravity that lifted things no matter their weight. I feel like the trident was either in that same category of these objects, or it was that same object itself. So the three prongs were for the circuitry inside of it. It needed to have 3 exits for the energy to come out of. This was so the energy could be balanced correctly and levitate inanimate objects that they would want to lift into place. How does a trident have this energy in it? Well, within the staff is a kinetic energy made of an eternal force inside of it that could continuously power itself. It pulls energy in from its surroundings. This energy is something we cannot see, but is all around and abundant on this planet. So where does the energy come from? Well, it surrounds us. It is in the air that we breathe. It is all around us. It isn't, and I think it's electromagnetism that they're talking about. It is all around us. It isn't far away or up in the sky. It's something that emanates out from the earth and reaches all around us. This energy would continuously charge the trident as long as there wasn't any damage to the device. So the founder of Atlantis found this trident left behind after he went into the chasm. How did he know what to do with it? Well, he understood what the device was because these were used on the home planet. The trident was also one of the devices that they had taken with them and then lost during the crash landing into the Salt Lake, the quarry. So this happened apparently in like what you would call now Utah. That was part of their equipment that was damaged, but the new trident that was found was linked to an older time in Atlantis. The people who had come to colonize before had abandoned their project. Okay, so tell me more about the actual explosion. I was given the red crystal and held it to my chest. I can still remember that it was the last thing I felt before I felt my body rip into two. There was a very specific type of meditation that I understood to do. It allowed me to go through my mind into this other world and pull open the door that I saw in front of me. The energy that they had horribly extracted from all those animal people was done by using a red crystal, and because of that, it had created a wormhole. They had not figured out how to send the animal people through this wormhole that they had generated, and it was through this wormhole that I could go. Why did the Atlanteans want this wormhole created? Well, they did not know what it was. They were just trying to create experiments to understand our crystals better. The wormhole that they opened is how I was able to connect to the energies. And from this wormhole, I could send these energies back into the energy system that they had there in Atlantis. It sends the energy back into Atlantis where it creates almost a shock wave, and I was able to crack the whole island open through explosions. And in this meditation, it looked like a leaking door that I had seen as a child. And I was able to pull this door open, and this time instead of water, it was a very hot, bright light. It was more than hot. It was a laser that shoots out horizontally around me. There is more to our past lives than we are told. This information does interact with our genetic codes as well, which are in there for a reason. There is a very specific link. There is a very special link between who you come back as and who you were, as well as who your ancestors were. Do you get a sense as to why that is important? Well, it is important in that it is a choice that you can make to see things through to the end. Tell me more. It seems like some people who are just visitors to this planet, it doesn't affect. But the people who have been here since the beginning and who are here to see this experiment through to the end have a connection in the DNA that keeps them within the same genetic line of ancestors. It seems like there is trauma in DNA that you can work out. Why is that important? Because it looks like there are some things that are too big to finish in one life. So they are expanded over several generations in order for specific things to be fulfilled. For example, there are many who are waiting for this information to come back to the surface. Where did these red crystals come from that make up the Bermuda Triangle? So there were 3 different collections that I can see. I can see the crystal that was responsible for the destruction of Atlantis, but I'm not sure where the other 2 collections were from. So the red crystals are responsible for the strange occurrences over the Bermuda Triangle. Yes, as well as many ancient devices that are still under the water there. I think a lot of them are like a Merkaba and like a pyramid type of thing. And then also like this other type of energy device that's down there, from what I know from Dolores Cannon's material. They still create a negative magnetic pool that can make things go haywire in that area. Every now and then, the crystals can create a perfect storm that can activate and open up a different realm that people can pass into. Where do people go if they pass into this other realm? Well, it looks like it is an identical realm to this realm, like a parallel realm. What's different about this realm? It is an alternate version of your life, of everyone's life. So when you pass into that realm, do you realize it right away? Yes, you can feel it. You know it is not your place, and unfortunately, you cannot come back. Are there many different realms? There are, but you are only focused on one. These other lives in other realms are extensions of you living out different aspects of this existence to get the full experience. The existence that you are in is just one facet of many that you created. Okay, so to me, this was validation of a lot of what Dolores Cannon's regressions, that the Bermuda Triangle lets you into another reality, another universe that you can never return to ours. It reminds me of the Montauk Project too. I don't think the Philadelphia experiment, I don't think they were able to come back to the reality that they're come from. You guys, I'm getting lightheaded because I haven't like stopped talking. Okay, I'm almost done. Are there any similarities of the current time we are living in now and the times of Atlantis before its destruction? Definitely the zeitgeist, the desire for more and more and more, the collective masculine energy of pushing, striving, and being the best with no regard for the feminine aspect that is in everything and in each human. This is very similar to the state of the world currently. So if you scan the records of Atlantis, do you see the lessons? Yes, the lessons of that time are very important. The lesson from Atlantis was to not forego the other side, that you need the yin and the yang to have a complete society. You can't have the innovations without the compassion, or the masculine energy without the feminine. A balance is always needed. So that was the lesson of Atlantis. What was the lesson of Lemuria? Well, the lesson of Lemuria was that you cannot be apathetic in your level of surrender. There is a time to stand up, to fight, to be counted, to make a claim for what you know is right. You cannot always be in 100% receptivity. You can honor the feminine, but that is not the only place to live. You need balance, and both of those societies lacked balance and polarity. Lemuria was a continent of beautiful people with open, loving hearts. There are many of them back here and living again. You see them, they are people with open, blessing hearts, open, bleeding hearts. They are idealists, and sometimes they do not see the bigger picture, and they have blinders on. These are the people who we ask to wake up, stand up, because they have the power to be spiritual warriors. They have the power to create a world that is balanced. The teachings live in their hearts, and they are a part of this planet and a part of the awakening. I also want to briefly mention a little bit more about the cat children. I already kind of mentioned it, but they had mental powers. They could levitate things with their mind by just staring at an object. They could tap into the ley lines of the earth. Not all of them could do this, but some of them could. And this video will get censored if I mention why these beings happened and occurred, but that's how the cat children got created, and you just have to read this book to find out for yourself. When you go to Egypt now, are there any remnants of the old world? Well, none that are visible. They are stuck underneath the sands there, but some will be discovered. There will be a very large windstorm sometime in the future that will uncover things that people haven't seen for. It looks like almost 15 to maybe 20,000 years. What type of things? Well, the other Sphinx will be uncovered. There is another Sphinx underground. What does it look like? It is shattered, and the face has been shattered down. You will only see the body. What does the face look like? It had the face of a lioness at first. It is the female counterpart of the male, but this was built way later. It was not built at the same time as the original Sphinx. Was this built during Atlantis or no? The original Sphinx was built by earlier otherworldly colonizers that came to Atlantis. They came with their technology and used it to build that. They may have had some help from the humans. Most of it was done using their technology though. During the escape and the regrowth after Atlantis, the second one was built with the guidance of the cat people, using these gold bands around their heads. They were guided to build it. So, who are we? And why are we here? We are an ancient group of beings who have come from different planets and have continuously moved from planet to planet in order to see what the next and the next will be, to continuously evolve and to spread throughout the universe so that we may never be alone. That is it. That is all the my favorite stuff that I got from the book. Personally, I have never been connected to Atlantis. I very well could have had a past life there. I have no idea. I don't know if I did because I don't have a connection to it. But sometimes just because you don't have a connection to something doesn't mean that there is no connection there. Just because I don't relate to Atlantis or think about Atlantis or like dream of Atlantis at all doesn't mean I didn't have a past life there. It could be that it's just no importance to me, or it could just mean that whatever karma I had from there is healed. I don't know. I don't know if I even had a past life in Atlantis or not. But I've never had a connection to Atlantis at all, or to mermaids. I always thought mermaids were fascinating and amazing, and all these cryptids, all these mythical creatures that I do believe are real. We just cannot see them either with our human eye, or they are just in another frequency field than what we can see. And I just felt really glad that I read this book. I am going to read her next book after I finish the romance that I'm reading. I think the first book I'm reading for January, I'm not sure yet, but I think the first book I'm reading is going to be her book called The Secrets Under the Sphinx or something like that. I can't believe I haven't read that. Like, that is going to be so much fun because I love Egypt. I truly have a connection to Egypt, so I feel like I need to uncover that a lot in a quantum healing hypnosis therapy session one day, because I've always felt drawn to Egypt. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been drawn to the pyramids and to the Sphinx, and just to like the word Egypt itself and like the culture. I don't know what it is. I have felt very connected to that, and I know it's not like Egyptian like at all really, but it's kind of giving Pharaoh. A couple of years ago I would wear like a lot of eyeliner and thick eyeliner, and it just made me feel, hopefully this doesn't offend anyone, but like it made me feel very connected to like that Egyptian side of me. I don't know what it is, but just like wearing that really thick liner on my eyes made me feel very connected to that. That's not like to be offensive or anything. I don't know if interpreted that way. I hope not, but that's not how it was something that I did for myself, and it just made me feel more connected. Right now I still feel connected to Egypt. I just don't feel the need to like wear eyeliner anymore. But yeah, this is a hypnotist journey to Atlantis, and hopefully that activated a lot for you guys. My intention with this video was for you to get a lot of information, but don't just watch the video and think that you got all the information. You have to read it. I think words are extremely powerful. Words are definitely spells, and I think upon reading it for yourself instead of just listening to it, there is a different type of activation that occurs. There is a different type of activation that occurs from hearing it, but there's also a different type of activation from your eyeballs seeing it and reading it for yourself through your own eyes. So yeah, that healing can go both ways. I just think it's very important to read material like this. Definitely balances out all the fiction that I'm reading. It's just like reading things like this feels like, makes you feel like your life is complete. I don't know how to explain it, but like sometimes it feels like there's something missing in life, and I feel like this really, like reading this kind of content, like past lives and magic and spirituality and extraterrestrials, I think this is what's missing from a lot of people's lives and a lot of people that don't feel complete, and the connection to the divine, of course. So if you ever feel like that, I have a feeling that reading this kind of material will completely make those feelings go away. I hope you read this, and I hope you enjoy.